When I first got into health and well-being, I thought that health was all just about nutrition and fitness. I thought that that's what all you needed to do is just eat right and exercise and you'll be completely fine. However, I got to a point in my life where I was doing all the right things, and then I would go and get blood work done and I would still be inflamed. There would still be things, quote unquote, wrong with me. And I would wonder, I'm eating so well every single day. I am exercising, I'm doing yoga, I'm doing all these things. What else could I be doing wrong? And then I started to really take a deep dive at my life, and I saw that, was I happy every single day? Absolutely not. Was I stressed out most of the time? Absolutely. And that is what was keeping me from really living a healthy life, really allowing me to give my greatest impact to the world. There were things holding me back, and I'll touch on those a little bit more as we go through, but it was the things that I was holding on to inside of me, the emotional pain that I had inside of me, which was truly holding me back. Welcome into the Conscious Coach podcast. I'll be your guide in uncovering the path to finding your true self within. We'll dive into the power of conscious living, the significance of mindfulness, breathwork, and breaking free from hustle culture in our own personal growth. Through these intimate discussions, I'll share not only my own life experiences, but also those of remarkable individuals who have created impact in the world through becoming conscious so that you can do the same. Welcome into the Conscious Coach. Again, so happy to have you here. Grateful for you being here in the first couple episodes. And today we're going to be getting deep. If you don't know too much about me, I love the deep conversations, and that's what I want to be able to have here at the Conscious Coach is let's go deep together. Have these conversations that really stimulate our brains and get us thinking and get us changing our lives each and every single day. Today what we're going to be discussing is emotions inside of the body and how to be able to release these emotions. If you don't know too much about me yet, maybe you do, but I am a breathwork coach. So what I do is I help my clients release the emotions that they're holding on to inside of them to allow them to bring better health, well-being, more productivity, focus into their lives. I work with a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of coaches that are feeling held back in their lives by something. They know that there is something holding them back. That might be scarcity. It might be fear. And what we do is we see where that fear and where that scarcity is being held within the body so that we can ultimately release it so that it no longer has to hold them back and no longer has to hold you back. And that's what we're going to be discussing today. Now, when I first got into health and well-being, I thought that health was all just about nutrition and fitness. I thought that that's what all you needed to do is just eat right and exercise and you'll be completely fine. However, I got to a point in my life where I was doing all the right things, and then I would go and get blood work done and I would still be inflamed. There would still be things, quote unquote, wrong with me. And I would wonder, I'm eating so well every single day. I am exercising, I'm doing yoga, I'm doing all these things. What else could I be doing wrong? And then I started to really take a deep dive at my life, and I saw that, was I happy every single day? Absolutely not. Was I stressed out most of the time? Absolutely. And that is what was keeping me from allowing me to give my greatest impact to the world. There were things holding me back, and I'll touch on those a little bit more as we go through, but it was the things that I was holding on to inside of me, the emotional pain that I had inside of me, which was truly holding me back. So I'm going to describe to you how to be able to release that and actually what it is in the first place. And I will be getting into and with the podcast today, and with this topic that I'm talking about, what really inspired it is I've been doing it for a long time, but I just listened to the book Untethered Soul for the fifth time, and Michael Singer talks about samskaras, and these are emotional imprints on our bodies, and I'm going to talk how that relates to our topic today. So first and foremost, what does it mean to hold emotions inside the body? And why does this happen? Well, we live in a society where when we're growing up, especially, we aren't taught how to be able to feel our emotions, how to be able to have something happen to us in our life that causes an emotion, and then to be able to actually feel it. So if you're a kid and somebody kicks you off the swing at the playground, a teacher or a parent might come over to them and be like, hey, 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 it's fine. You don't need to cry. But in that moment, that child or you want to cry. You want to let that out. You want to let it go. You want to be able to feel what you're feeling in that moment. So, the good thing to do, the right thing to do, is not to shun that child for crying or their friends saying, oh, you're such a wimp. No, it's to cry because that experience, if you don't cry, it then gets stored within your body. So we have this flesh suit and we think that we are just skin and bones and hair, and that's what makes up our body. But we are far more energy than anything else. And our energy is meant to be flowing through us. Energy is meant to come in and flow. And if it doesn't, then it gets stored within the body. So that is what happens when that child or you in that experience doesn't feel the emotion. It gets blocked in the body and then it gets stored. And this happens because we live in a society that doesn't allow us to truly feel our emotions. If somebody feels a lot of emotions, they're deemed as sensitive or they're deemed as too much, which you might relate to this topic as I was. I was always told that I was too much. And I know that for myself, growing up and playing football, we were never allowed to feel our emotions. If we felt pain, it was suck it up. If we needed to cry, it was you're such a wimp, you're such a baby. And that gets stored within us, that gets printed. If I show my emotions, I am therefore a baby. So therefore, I'm not going to show my emotions. And over time, this gets built up in the body more and more and more. And this really affects our mind and body connection. So, our mind and our body is connected through a set of nerves. The biggest nerve is our vagus nerve, and it's the main neurological nerve that runs from the body up into the brain. And these two things, this nerve is constantly communicating with the brain and the body. Now, when we have emotions that we store inside of us, this connection gets disrupted. The mind and the body don't connect very well. The energy isn't flowing how it's supposed to. So, what happens from this is that there is a blockage. And when this blockage happens, our body starts to get inflamed because it's causing stress within the nervous system, it's causing stress within our nerves. Those nerves start to get inflamed, and the electricity from the vagus nerve is not connecting as it should. So you start to develop health issues within your body, such as gut issues. That's a big one caused from vagus nerve inflammation. And it also causes cognitive or brain inflammation as well. So then you're not able to think as well, you're not able to focus as well, and you get these hormone and gut issues, which can manifest in the body in many different ways. This can lead to small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. This can lead to Crohn's disease. This can lead to a thyroid issue. This can lead to depression. This can lead to anxiety because your vagus nerve is not working how it's supposed to. And when the vagus nerve doesn't work as it's supposed to, it therefore causes a lot of inflammation in the body. And that ties directly into your mental, emotional, and physical health, but mainly the mental and emotional health. So when we don't feel our emotions properly, when our vagus nerve isn't working as it should, and also our body is inflamed, we are going to be in a state of chronic stress. And when we're in a state of chronic stress, that is what we act from. When something comes into our life that is stressful, we immediately go into a fight or flight state and we react from that place. So we might get upset very easily. We might get angry really easily. We might not be able to know where our emotions are coming from. We don't have control over them. They instead are just based upon this inflammation in the body based upon the stress, and also this stored energy and stored emotions that you have inside of you. And that causes mental health problems as well. You experience depression, you experience anxiety. These things keep coming up because your body is in a stressed out state, which puts you into a fear based state all the time. And you very easily go into a fight or flight state, which causes more and more stress over time, which really impacts your mental health too. And some of the common signs of this, so you might be asking yourself, okay, I think I might have stored emotions inside of me. I don't really know. But the biggest ones are chronic pain, stress, and anxiety, which I mentioned a little bit before. If you are somebody that is experiencing just chronic pain, you have chronic pain in your joints, in your muscles, you have a lot of migraines and headaches, this is a sign that you have blocked emotions in the body. You have something that is stored within you that needs to be released. And that is what your body is basically telling you. That chronic pain is signaling to you, your body saying, hey, I have something inside of me that needs to be let go of. And I'm going to keep feeling this way until you allow me to release it. So that is basically your body talking to you. That stress, that anxiety is basically your body telling you, hey, there's something inside of me that needs to be released. Can you please release it? So those are the signs and symptoms, and this leads into the chronic health conditions that we experience today. So there's more disease in the world than ever before. About 60% of the US population has at least one chronic disease as adults. And that's because we're living in a society of unprocessed emotions. As I said before, we aren't taught how to be able to feel our emotions in our lives. And this leads to the disease and sickness that we see. We see it more than ever. More than ever, people have depression. More than ever, people have diabetes and cancer and these autoimmune conditions. 90% of disease and sickness is caused from stress and unprocessed emotions. I really want to hit that home that we are emotional beings. And being emotional beings, we're the only being that feels all these emotions, and we can actually feel our emotions and process them. And being that, if we don't process these emotions, they get stored within us, as I said before. And when they get stored within us, it manifests as a disease, it manifests as a sickness. So how do we start to overcome this is, well, we have to start to release those emotions. And if we don't, this causes us to have sort of an emotional baggage, because as we start to not be able to feel our emotions, then this builds up over time. It's like a bag that you carry around with all of your emotions inside of it. Because once you start not feeling your emotions and you get in the rhythm of suppressing them more and more, then that adds up over time. And this is going to cause you in your life to be acting from your past emotions whenever something comes up. So you might have experienced a childhood trauma when you were 5 years old. Let's say it's your dad leaving and abandoning you. So in that moment, I'm sure that your mom or whoever it was, you didn't know how to feel those emotions. Like you didn't know how to just sit there and cry and weep and let that out and release it so that you didn't have to hold it inside anymore. And an example of this is, if you've ever seen, there's a video of a polar bear where in this helicopter, people are chasing the polar bear and trying to tranquilize it. And then once they tranquilize it, the polar bear actually shakes and trembles to release the trauma that it's holding inside. But when you were a 5-year-old, you didn't know how to do that. So that feeling of your father abandoning you got stuck inside of you. And then throughout your life, whenever somebody might have abandoned you or you might have felt abandoned, that just stimulates it again. And when you get into relationships, you're scared about somebody abandoning you and you need love because your father never gave you that love. And so all these triggers start to stimulate that over and over again. And the more that you don't feel it, the more it gets stuck in you. And also the more that you don't feel it, you keep acting from that past emotion. So you keep trying to find somebody to love you. You keep worrying about somebody abandoning you in a relationship. And this just happens as a cyclical pattern over and over again. And that's the life that you see. So it affects how you function cognitively because you're functioning from a place of, I need love, please give me love. And nobody is ever able to give you the love that you seek. So you feel depressed, you feel anxious all the time, and it also affects your decision making because you're making decisions based upon these past emotions and searching for love in your life, searching to not be abandoned anymore. And so you make decisions from this low vibrational state, and that's why everything in your life is also low vibration. And this affects your personal growth over time. It affects your relationships, as I just mentioned. And because if you're going into relationships, I know that I used to do this as well, is going into a relationship. I was going into a relationship because I wanted somebody to be able to love me because I never got the love in my life that I was searching for. Growing up as a child, I was never given the love that I needed because my parents were never given the love that they needed. And therefore, getting into relationships, I was seeking other people to give me love. But here's the thing, when we seek other people to give us love, we are also putting out that message that I don't know how to love myself. Can you please love me? But our lives, everything in our life is just a mirror of ourselves. So that I am attracting that person back to me. I am attracting a person that is not able to give me love because they don't have love either. So there we're both searching for it. Hey, can you please love me? And then that person is, hey, can you please love me? We both don't have the love to give to one another because we don't know how to yet. And that's going to create a quote unquote toxic relationship, which is something that I had many times in my life over and over again. Is I was getting into these relationships with women where I was searching for their love, but they didn't know how to love themselves. And then I would be like, why can't this person love me? I do so much for you. I do all these things for you. This might sound familiar. I do all these things for you. Why can't you love me? I do this and this and this for you. It's because they don't know how to show you love. They don't have it within themselves. I'm asking somebody to love me that doesn't know how to love themselves. How can we ever expect that person to be able to give you love? You can't. So this affects the relationships in your life. It affects your personal growth, how you're able to show up in the world. If you have all this emotional baggage, you're going to be coming from a place of scarcity and fear. You're going to be coming from a place of lack in every single thing that you do. And that's just going to affect how you're able to move in this world. If you're a person that is in a spot where you allow yourself to feel emotions and things just flow to you in your life and you allow them to be processed and then let go of, you're able to attract yourself to much higher vibration things. But if you're somebody that emotions flow to you and things come into your life and you just hold them within and you carry this emotional baggage, then you're going to vibrate at this lower frequency and everything in your life is going to show up in that lower frequency because that is what you are attracting. The vibration that we resonate at in our lives based upon the emotions that we hold inside is going to cause us to have that same vibration to flow to us. So it's going to be lower quality relationships, a lower quality career, a lower quality environment. We want to raise that vibration and we want to raise that frequency. So how do we do that? How do we allow ourselves to start to feel these emotions so that we don't have to hold them inside? How do we release them? Well, as I have said before, I am a breathwork coach. These are the tools that I use to allow you to be able to release those emotions that you're holding onto inside because we can release them. We can let them go. A big tagline of mine before was let that shit go. It's actually right behind my toilet in my bathroom. Kind of funny there. But let that shit go. So how do we do that? So breath work is such a beautiful, beautiful tool. And it might be a little bit mainstream, and you might think like, "Hey, I've heard about breath work. I've seen Wim Hof. I've seen this. I've seen that. I've looked it up on YouTube. Like, yeah, it's cool, but can it really help me?" So this is how I think about breath work. Breath work is a mechanism to allow you to go into your body to see where you're holding these suppressed emotions to actually form this connection with yourself. So I don't look at breath work as just breathing. I look at breath work as a tool. So for myself, I've done plant medicine, I've done multiple different types of breath work, and all these tools basically allow us to tap out of the mind, the constant thinking mind, and go inside of our body. So let me backtrack and actually talk about what breath work is before I get ahead of myself. Breath work is basically conscious breathing. We are consciously focusing on our breath to put us into a certain emotional or nervous system state. So you can use your breath to stimulate your sympathetic nervous system in two ways. You can stimulate your sympathetic nervous system by shallow breaths, breathing up in your chest to put you into a stressed out state. We don't want to really get in that state, but many of us are in that state all throughout the day. We're breathing up in our chest. But we can also use our breath to stimulate our sympathetic nervous system to allow us to release emotions inside. So when you go into a breathwork session, for me, for instance, is we'll go into cyclical patterns of breathing in through the mouth and out through the mouth. Really little space between the inhale and exhale. And this is going to stimulate your sympathetic nervous system to allow you to release emotions inside, because this type of breath stimulates an emotional release. This can be in the form of crying, screaming, yelling, laughing, whatever needs to be felt. So that is what we can do with our breath. We can also use our breath to put us into a parasympathetic rest and recover state. So this allows us to open up ourselves to receive more. It allows us to decrease stress. It allows us to decrease anxiety. When we get into the state, we go into this very relaxed night state. And what you're actually doing in that period is you're raising your vibration. You're clearing out the lower vibration things that you're holding onto in your body, and you're actually allowing yourself to raise that vibration. So that's what we can do with our breath, just by consciously focusing on your breath. And on a simpler level, you can just use your breath to get ready for a meeting, get ready for a podcast. And you can also use your breath to get into a really nice chilled out state if you're feeling more stressed, or to get ready for bed. These are all ways that we can use our breath, because the breath is what connects every single thing in our body. It's the first thing that we do when we are born, and it's the last thing we do before we die, and it connects everything within us. So I can put you in a really stressed out state or a very, very calm state, all just by using your breath. And so to discuss what I was talking about before, now with our breath, we are able to tap into our bodies, like I said. And the reason for this is when we start to go into these big, powerful breaths. So you're breathing in through your mouth, out through your mouth, and you do that over and over again. You might see this in holotropic breath work, in somatic breath work, and Wim Hof. These longer periods of this big inhale and exhale, what it's causing you to do is stimulate. You have this chemical inside of you called DMT, and which is N-dimethyltryptamine, if you want to know the actual name of it. And what DMT does is we hold it in our lungs. That's the main place that we hold it. So when you go into these big diaphragmatic breaths, you're actually stimulating that DMT. What DMT allows you to do is it allows the mind to go from the conscious thinking mind to the subconscious mind, which allows you to tap into your whole body. And it allows you to go into your nervous system. Your nervous system is where all these emotions are stored, all these past experiences. And it's also held in a specific part of your brain called the limbic system. The limbic system is where all those emotions and all those memories are stored. All the actual memories of those experiences are there. So when you stimulate the DMT, what you're doing is you're tapping into your nervous system, and you're tapping into this part of your brain. You really go into the subconscious mind, the mind that's always there and always listening, but just not the conscious thinking mind, the one that always talks. And when you do this, you're able to go into the body and see where you're holding those stored emotions. So when I'm guiding somebody through a breathwork session, I might feel that they're holding a lot in their chest. So I'll say, feel into your chest. We hold a lot of grief in this area. Feel into your chest and see what you're holding there. And now you feel into your chest, and you might feel the grief of losing a parent. You might feel the grief of losing a dog. Like it can be something like that. And you might feel that. And then the limbic system is tapping in as well. And it allows you to feel and see, actually see what emotion you didn't allow yourself to feel during that time. So it might be you never allowed yourself to actually feel and process the grief. So that might cause you then, when you're breathing and you're in this unconventional state of consciousness, a different state of consciousness than you and I are in right now, you can feel into that past memory. And it's not going to cause you to necessarily like feel really scared or shameful. It'll be like, oh my God, I never allowed myself to actually feel that emotion that I was needing to during that time. So then you're able to quickly, because you're in this unconventional state of consciousness, feel the emotion that you never allowed yourself to feel. We are emotional beings. And when we allow ourselves to feel that emotion, we then allow it to be released. So this grief that I was holding on to from losing my parent, during that time, I'll probably be able to connect with my parent. I might even speak with my parent. And my parent will say, this isn't yours to hold any longer. Or you might say to yourself, this isn't yours to hold any longer. Or I might say to you, because I'm feeling into your energy, this isn't yours to hold any longer. And knowing that, you can give yourself some forgiveness, feel the emotion that you never allowed yourself to feel, and then you can ultimately allow that stored emotion inside of you to be released. And now you're not holding that grief in your heart anymore. This grief might have been causing a health issue. It might have been causing a heart problem. It might have been causing really tight chest. So you're stressed out and you're anxious a lot more. And now your chest, it starts to open up. It starts to release. For the first time, you feel like you can actually breathe. You feel like you're open, you're expanded, because you're not holding this emotion and this pain any longer that was causing your chest to come inward. This is why we see so many people with these hunched over backs. It's actually closed hearts, because to actually explain the process of this, when an emotion, so when something comes through, your body is all energy, and energy is meant to be moved. This is how atoms and cells are created in your body. This energy keeps moving. However, that energy can get blocked. So when this energy, when something happens to you, we have this sense of perception around us. So when we have these our eyes open, there's a lot of inputs that come into us. There's a lot of energy, and that energy is meant to just flow through us. So at first, when something comes in, when there's an input or there's an imprint, there's an emotion that comes through us, it goes up to the brain first to be released. But with our constant thinking mind, it's not actually able to be released and let go of. So then it goes down into our hearts. Now, if we don't allow this energy to flow through us naturally, we just allow ourselves to feel the emotion and then we let it go. We realize it's not ours and we don't hold on to it any longer. But most of us, that doesn't happen. We cling on to the emotion or we suppress it. So over time, your heart starts to close more and more and more. So more and more of like a hunchback. Your heart is just closing, 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 closing. Now, when you get into a breathwork session and you actually feel into your heart space for the first time, your heart starts to open and open and open and open, and you release more and more and more. And once you start releasing, you go, oh my God, this isn't as bad as I thought it was. This isn't as hard. I actually really like this, and I start to feel better. So you start to open more and more and more and more and more. And then you don't have these emotions inside of you that are holding you back. There's not as much lack. There's not as much scarcity. There's not as much fear. Oh my God, I feel like I can actually start making these decisions how I want to in my life. I actually have my focus. I feel better. My health is better. And these transitions and these transformations happen very, very quickly. They happen like kind of almost immediately after you do these deep breathwork sessions. You start to feel yourself start to open up. You start to feel more love. You start to feel lighter. You start to just feel better. And I want to give you guys an example. So I had this client, and when she first came to me, she told me that she was holding when she first came to me, she said that she just has these gut issues. She's been working with doctors for years on end, and holistic therapists and holistic doctors, and they put her on this medicine, they put her on these pills, they put her on these specific diet protocols, and she just still has these gut issues. She's tried every single thing. So I said, okay, when we go into our breathwork session, we did our first breathwork session. Let's feel into your gut region. So your gut region is your solar plexus. It's a big energy center. And I said, let's feel into that. Use your breath, go into that area. The first thing that I noticed is that she wasn't able to take a full diaphragm breath. She would open, she would take a breath into her diaphragm, and then it would stop. It would be blocked, and then it would go up into the chest. So that's a big sign that there's something in that gut region that isn't allowing her to fully open up. So when we went into the breathwork session, I am an energy healer and I do Reiki as well. I'm able to feel into people's energy and emotions. So I felt, as soon as we went in, I felt something in her gut region. And I said, breathe into your gut region, see what's there. Put your hands there, place your hands there, feel into that area. And then afterwards, we were both pretty amazed. She said that through the breathwork session, her grandma and her mom came through and they were explaining to her the gut issues that they had. And she remembered how her grandma was like this complete germaphobe and really wouldn't eat anything, and because she always had this really bad gut health, and the same with her mom. And it was right after they both had kids, so there was something that was triggering them from having a kid in the gut region. It was probably some form of trauma from holding the baby. But you can see that what this client was holding inside of her was a trapped emotion that was passed down to her. And this is something that I want to hit on, is that those things that you're holding inside of you are probably passed down to you. And then throughout your life, there are triggers that stimulate that. So it gets worse and worse throughout your life. So your parent might have experienced a childhood trauma when they were younger of abandonment. And then that pattern probably repeats in your life. So this just builds up and builds up. Now, when we do things to release it, such as a deep breathwork session, or you can also just like go outside and really feel your emotions and like shake them out and allow yourself to even meditate and feel into those parts of your body that you're holding onto it. But when we do this, it allows us to release not only what we held on to, but also the pain of the generations before us. Because we have the ability to heal 7 generations before us and 7 generations in front of us. I'll touch on this more in another podcast, but that is what you're able to do. So you're able to literally heal yourself by using your breath or another tactic, so that the emotions that were held inside of you for so long no longer have to be held inside of you. And this goes back to my client. She's now feeling better every single day. Her gut issues aren't there. And that all just came from releasing a trapped emotion inside of her body. And now you can do the same. You can tap into this. And to touch on samskaras a little bit, I want to read this small passage from the book, The Untethered Soul, because I think this can really relate and bring these things together for us. So what it says, it is not easy to keep energy together in one place for long. As you willfully struggle to keep these events from passing through your consciousness, the energy first tries to release by manifesting through the mind, what I discussed earlier. This is why the mind becomes so active. When the energy can't make it through the mind because of conflicts with other thoughts and mental concepts, it then tries to release through the heart. This is what creates all the emotional activity. When you resist even that release, the energy gets packed up and forced into deep storage within the heart. In the yogic tradition, that unfinished energy pattern is called a samskara. This is Sanskrit word meaning impression. And in the yogic teachings, it is considered one of the most important influences affecting your life. A samskara is a blockage, an impression from the past. It's an unfinished energy pattern that ends up running your life. So you can see that these samskaras, these unprocessed emotions, get stored within our body because it goes up into our mind and then to our heart, and then we hold it inside of our body. He goes on to say, this process of cycling This process of cycling energy is exactly what happens with a samskara. A samskara is a cycle of stored past energy patterns in a state of relative equilibrium. It is your resistance to experiencing these patterns that causes the energy to keep cycling around itself. There is no other place for it to go. You won't let it. This is how most people process their issues. This packet of cycling energy is literally stored in your energetic heart center. All the samskaras you have collected over your life are stored there. So, with today's topic and what we are talking about today, and what I've explained to you, is that we can start to release those samskaras. We don't have to allow these imprints to be held inside of us any longer. We can allow ourselves to start to feel the emotions that come into our lives. As we allow ourselves to start to feel, we allow our heart to start to open up, and we allow our energy centers to be in line so that energy can flow through us, not flow into us and then get trapped in an energy center, specifically your heart, because you have these 7 energy centers inside of you. And when energy flows into us, we want to allow it to pass through, feel whatever needs to be felt, allow ourselves to let it go, allow ourselves to not become attached to any emotions. And this comes over time with practice, so that we don't have to hold anything in our lives that will inherently cause us to be held back. So we can start to feel more love, we can start to feel lighter, we can start to be more successful, we can start to have better relationships and a better environment, a better friend group. This all comes from us allowing ourselves to feel our emotions. And this is something that I hope that we make more mainstream and normal, is supporting one another in feeling our emotions. Okay? Let's start to do that together. Lastly, I just want to describe to you some breathwork techniques for emotional release that you can start doing today, so that you don't have to necessarily do a full-on breathwork session with me or another person. So, the breathwork technique that I like to teach people when they're just starting out is the 4-7-8 method. This was developed by Andrew Weil, and this allows you to get into a really nice state where you're able to tap out of the mind and into the body a bit and just start to connect with your body. That's the first step, is connecting with your body. Getting out of the mind that's always thinking, starting to connect with your body, because you probably haven't connected with your body in a long time, or maybe ever. So it's time to start connecting with you. And we can do that through this breathing pattern. And all that it is you breathe in through your nose for 4 seconds. You hold on the inhale after you breathe in through your nose for 7 seconds. And then you release out your mouth for 8 seconds. And when you do this, I encourage you to put a hand on your chest and your heart, and a hand on your stomach and your gut, and just feel into those areas. You probably, as you do this for about 5 minutes. So in for 4, hold for 7, out for 8, and just feel into your heart space and feel into your gut. Just feel anything that you might be holding on to. And if you can do this every single day. And over time, you'll start to be able to connect with your body more. And then these emotions might start to arise. These things that you are holding on to might start to arise a little bit. And then you can go into the breath work more and more and start to allow yourself to feel them and release them. Realize that they're not yours to hold. They were never yours to hold. And you'll understand this when you get into the breath work more. But those things aren't yours to hold. So you can ultimately allow yourself to let them go. And then when you're ready for it, you can start to go into deeper breathing sessions. So you can go into an hour long or hour and a half long breathwork session, and you can look up somatic breathwork, you can look up holotropic breathwork. You can then allow yourself to really start to release these emotions that you've held on to. It's very powerful work, and it's very transformative. So for anybody out there that wants to live a better life, I highly recommend that you start doing this. Now, when you're just starting out with breathwork, just some precautionary things here is just allow yourself to ease your way into it. I wouldn't recommend somebody that's just starting out, that's never done breathwork before, to go into these long breathwork sessions. I would say to start with a 4-7-8 method, start off slow, and then when you feel good with that, then go into a full breathwork session, so that you can allow yourself to be able to process the emotions that come up, and you know how to be able to handle it. And also just make sure that before you go and do a breathwork session just know the person that you're doing it with, make sure they have good reviews, make sure they're very knowledgeable about what they're doing so that you're just held in a good space. If you want to ask me more questions, come and ask me more questions. If there's one thing that I could leave you with today, it's to start to feel your emotions. By feeling your emotions, you're going to allow yourself to release. You're going to allow yourself emotional freedom. When we have emotional freedom, that is when we have the freedom to create the life that we seek. As you start to release more and more, you're going to allow yourself to resonate at a higher vibration, a higher frequency, and more abundance, more love, more joy is going to flow to you in your life. 90% of disease and sickness is caused from trapped emotions. I want to preface that point, make it very important. So if 90% of disease is created from that, then we can solve 90% of disease by allowing each other to feel our emotions. Then we can all start to live better lives together. We can start to leave a bigger impact in the world. We can start to do what we actually want to do on this planet together. So let's all give ourselves permission to start to feel our emotions. Therefore, we can all create the life that we seek, and we can start to be happier, healthier, more loving beings that care for one another. And I highly encourage you that you start focusing on breath work. You start using the 4-7-8 method. This is a fantastic tool to start getting into breathwork more and more, start to be able to connect with your body and actually see what you're holding on to so that you can start to release it and you can start to let it go. And if you need any further help with this, please reach out to me. And if you would like to experience a breathwork session with me, I would love to hold you in that space. I also do online breathwork sessions, donation-based, every other week, so you can go and check those out as well. Just look on my Instagram and you'll be able to sign up for that. I hope that this podcast today inspired you to start to allow yourself to feel your emotions so that you can start to heal for yourself, heal for the past generations behind you and the generations coming in front of you. And by you doing this work, you're going to allow yourself to live a better life, and you're also going to allow others around you to have permission to live a better life too. So let's start feeling our emotions together. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. If you could please like this and leave a review, I would be so grateful for you. And as always, if you need further help, please don't hesitate to send me a message on Instagram or send me an email. I would always love to be able to help you. I hope that you have a beautiful day, and I hope that you allow yourself to let that shit go. I will talk to all of you soon. Peace. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. And if you're listening, leave a 5-star review. I also wanted to let you know I just released a subscription that is Becoming Conscious. You get access to guided breathwork recordings as well as guided meditations from 5 minutes all the way up to 60 so that you can start living a more conscious life. You can click down in the description and you'll get access to it for free for 7 days. I hope that you enjoy. I'll catch you on the next episode. Peace.